on all of those cases. So hopefully when I get that, I can wrap my brain around what each individual case is. Okay.
Ms. Martin sent me a motion to withdraw on the other offenses that I told her I don't have to sign it, but she can file it. And I think that the order appointing that I got yesterday had your name on everything.
It did already. So
kind of cross-eyed.
I was really confused as well. So, okay.
As long as we're all on the same page.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I didn't miss anything then.
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
You gotta make an excuse.
Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, how you doing, Judge? I can't hear you, Judge. I think you're on mute.
I'm just waiting for someone from the state to appear. Apparently your client, Ms. Nathan, is now present.
I got her on speakerphone. She can't figure out the Zoom thing. Miss Nathan, can you say something? Yeah, well, I can hear you. Can you hear her, Judge?
No. Does she want to call the number? That may be easier.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Miss Stephanie, I'm gonna give you the number to call real quick, okay?
I'll need to get someone from the state on anyway. Melissa, is somebody from the state going to appear?
Let me call Sherry real quick.
Hey, I gotta get in court right quick. I'll try back. Hello, Your Honor.
I think we're just waiting on Miss Nathan to call. She called, but is she still calling that number, Mr. Aguilar?
I believe so, Judge. I've given it to her. Is there like any other number she needs besides the phone number? Or?
Well, it's the phone number, and then she's got to put in the code for today.
And that's the 917 number, correct? Like the regular Zoom meeting and code?
Yes, whatever it is for today.
Okay, cool. I gave her both numbers, so hopefully she can figure it out. Yeah. See her. Not here. Somebody online? Oh, Lord. I don't see her.
Nathan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
All right, we'll go on the record and cause numbers D40878 and D38677, both South State versus Stephanie Nathan. And again, I have counsel for both sides present. Ms. Nathan, as far as the new case, ma'am, is that your full and complete name? Stephanie Diane Nathan.
Yes, sir.
Charged with the offense of possession of controlled substance, penalty group 1, less than a gram. And do you understand what you're charged with?
Yes, sir, I am.
Do you wish to waive arraignment this time and enter a plea of not guilty on behalf of your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
Schedule order will go into effect if y'all can get me that as soon as possible. And then in the other cause number, that's a status on the motion to adjudicate. Where are we on this case?
Judge, if I could just have one more status. I just recently reviewed the discovery on the new case. And the new case has something to do with the motion to revoke, of course. So if I could just get another 30 days to look at it.
We'll just set it on the next scheduled time on the new case, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
Ms. Schumer, anything from you?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Thank y'all. And based on the fact that she's appeared, no capities could be issued.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That concludes the hearings.
Thank you.
Is that all you needed from me, Your Honor? Will that be all, Your Honor?
And have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
We have everybody on the Bodmer case from this morning.
I'm here, Your Honor. My client's here. I see Miss Bodimer and I see Mr. Eisen, but it looks like his camera is off and he's muted.
Okay.
Yes or no? It won't unmute.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, we'll come out of recess. And, I will put Miss Rhodes, are you in the same room with Miss Bodmer? Are you in a separate room?
She's in another room right now.
Okay, I'm gonna put you back in the waiting room, okay?
Yep.
Ms. Barbara, you're still in the email.
You cut out.
Can't hear you, Your Honor.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you may proceed.
Right, this is Joe Eisen. I have permission to proceed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the audio is a little bit different than it was earlier. I don't know if we have a weaker connection, but I'll do the best that I can.
Okay.
Chantel Bodmer, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm continuing with your interrogation here with the judge's permission. Going back to December 2020, would you give us the schedule which shows where Damien spent his time as he went to one house and then the other and also went to school?
Richard would drop him off around 4:15 every evening with my parents and leave him all night until 5 a.m. and pick him up, take him to breakfast, and then take him to school, sleep all day
Okay, and how long did this go on?
for about 4 months, I do believe.
So that would be January, February, and March
Yes,
after
sir.
the December. What time in December did you split?
December 31st.
Okay. And as far as the time the child was over there at the house with your mother and father, were you there on evenings?
I was there after I got off work.
What was your work schedule then?
I went in about 2 or 3 in the afternoon and was off by 8.
Okay, so you would see your child before your husband would come by in the morning and pick him up. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Who made breakfast for the child?
My mom.
And who provided an evening meal for the child?
My mom.
Was this Monday through Friday?
On the days he would work,
What happened on a day he didn't work?
he would have him.
How often did he work between December and the time that the drop off ended?
Monday through Thursday.
Did there come a time whenever his drop off stopped completely?
Yes, he refused to bring him back to my parents.
When was that?
Right at the end of March, I do believe.
All right. And as far as the support for the child is concerned, the payment for his food when he was over there at your mother and father's house or any other payments that he needed, who paid that?
My mom and dad, and I helped them with that also.
What about the child's health care? How's his health care being maintained? What's his insurance coverage?
I have Medicaid on him.
Okay, are you asking for temporary custody of this child, being able to name its address for the next school year?
Yes, sir.
And what school would you put him in if you got temporary custody?
Palmer ISD.
As far as having any man in the house with your mother and father and your 2 children, have you had any man over the house and who stayed the night since December 2020?
No, I haven't.
And by the house, I mean your mother and father's house.
No, I haven't.
Now, we had some pictures of the other house that you described where there was a possum running loose. And I don't know how to handle that, Your Honor. We can put them up on the screen, but I need to have the witness identify them. This is the first time I've used the share screen.
It's on.
Okay, I'm gonna try to bring them up. I have to have somebody identify them for me because I suffered a central vision loss with COVID last year, which hadn't come back. What is our first exhibit we got up?
I'm trying to find it. I had them up earlier.
We tested this previously and then we had to, somehow we've lost the exhibit access here to the shared screen.
Yeah, I have it on screen sharing.
You do have it? Now, can you see the picture, Miss Bodmer?
I don't see any pictures.
Okay, well, apparently we are not getting the pictures through.
There they are. Awesome.
I don't know where you're at.
Okay, I've somehow lost the pictures I was going to use as the exhibit, Your Honor. I have distributed them before this hearing to opposing counsel. And the coordinator explained to me that I needed to present them at the time we had the hearing. The witness has seen the pictures. What are the exhibits lettered?
Exhibits 1 through 15.
We have exhibits 1 through 15, the petitioner does, and they are photographs. And they are photographs of the house in Ellis County, and they're photographs of the house in Navarre County. And the house in Navarre County is the one with the possum. And so, have you seen these exhibits before, Ms. Bodmer?
I haven't seen those pictures before.
Okay, you didn't review them before getting on the stand today?
Today was the first day I seen them, but before this, no.
Okay, did you see them before you got on the witness stand?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
you have to object. She has to be able to identify them. We can't lay the predicate that way.
I was hoping to be able to lay a predicate after getting this in, but again, I'll have to establish the exhibits before the hearing is over with, my ability to get them up on the screen. I can pass her subject to recall, if that's okay, and call my last witness, who is Miss Rhodes.
Okay.
I can do that. Let me call Miss Rhodes to the stand. She'll be brief.
Wait. I have a chance to cross-examine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fine. I pass for cross.
Now, Ms. Bottomer, I'm a bit confused, and maybe the court is too. Can you clarify how you testified that you didn't get to see your son, but then you testified that Mr. Bottomer would bring the child over to your mother's house for about 4 months?
After that, he refuses to let me see him. He refuses to answer phone calls from me. He refuses to answer text messages from me. And when he does, all he wants to do is call me names.
Ma'am, I'm asking you, so up until March, at least, you're conceding that Mr. Bottomer was allowing you at least access to and possession of your son.
Up until March.
Okay. And prior to that, you had testified that you and Mr. Bottomer got into an argument and that you left and went to your mother's house. You chose not to take your son, correct?
When I left, my son was with my parents.
Objection, non-responsive.
I object and say it is responsive. He's answered it. The child was with the parents. She couldn't take him if he wasn't there.
No, Your Honor, I asked her if she left the child. It's a simple yes or no.
Oh, you said who took the child with her. Why did you not take the child with her?
That's not what I said.
State your question again, Mr. McGee.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, earlier you testified after you and Mr. Baltimore got into an argument that you went to your mother's house. you didn't take the child with you, correct?
My child was with my mother and father in Galveston for New Year's.
Okay, so you went to stay with your child who was with your mother and your father?
I came to their house while they were in Galveston because I had to work.
Okay, and so then subsequently your son went back to his father?
He picked him up for school, and ever since then, he has kept him.
Well, now I go back to the confusion. You say he kept him, but yet the child was regularly going over to your mother's house for 4 months, correct?
Objection to the form of the question, confusion. It states a fact not in evidence and includes opinion of counsel.
Oliver, you may respond, ma'am. You may
Ma'am,
respond, ma'am.
Ms. Bodimer, is that correct?
You cut out.
Okay, so you testified that he picked him up from school. Mr. Bodimer picked his son up from school and then subsequently kept him from you. Is that your testimony?
He took him to my parents for
That's a
4
yes,
months.
objection, non-responsive.
I'll sustain, thank you.
Ma'am, it's just a yes or no.
Yes,
Okay, but yet you're also testifying for 4 months, he was taking the child to the same place you were residing, correct?
that was at my aunt's house.
So was that your aunt's house?
They were staying with my aunt because their house was being remodeled.
Okay, so Mr. Bodimer didn't take the child to your mother's house.
He took him to my aunt's house in Waxahachie on his way to work.
Okay,
He spent maybe 2 hours a day with him.
okay, so did you testify earlier that for at least a few months that your mom would cook breakfast for your son?
Yes,
And where was that
at my aunt's house.
Okay, so are you all living at your aunt's house?
We are now back in my mom and dad's house since it's been remodeled.
Okay, so, and let me ask you this, ma'am. How many bedrooms are at your mom's house?
3.
So there's 3 bedrooms, and it is you, your mom, your dad, and your 2 other children. So it's 5 people residing in a 3-bedroom. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you want your son to live there, so that would be 6 people living in a 3-bedroom. Ma'am?
I think she's frozen.
Ms. Bodimer, can you hear me?
Yes, that's correct. A 3-bedroom.
Okay. So if your son were to go live there, that would be 6 people living in a 3-bedroom.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about some support. How much do you give your parents?
When they need it, I give them as much as I can.
And how much is that on average a month?
It just depends.
Okay. And how much money have you provided Mr. Bodimer?
I haven't given him none.
Do you think it costs money to raise a child?
Oh, I know it does. I
Okay.
have to have stuff here for when he comes here too.
Non-responsive after I know it does.
I'll sustain.
And so you know it does, and yet you've provided no support for this child. Is that correct?
When I have him, I support him.
Well, when you have him, your parents are paying for the electricity. Is that not correct?
They pay for the bills, yes.
Okay.
And when they need help, I give them money if I have it.
If you have it. So if you don't
I
have
have-
it, you don't give them anything, do you?
If I don't have it. I don't have it. They understand.
Okay. So, and do you think it's in the best interest of a child to reside with you if you don't even have the means to provide for yourself?
I pay all of my bills with my money
Okay.
because unfortunately I have a car payment.
Okay. You pay all of your bills, but your bills are not inclusive of utility, electric, water, and a house payment, correct?
That's added in. And like I said, if I have the money, I give it to them. If not, then
Okay.
they understand. I try to
How much do
do
you
the
make?
best I can.
How much do you make?
I make $9 an hour.
Okay. And where do you work?
Sonic,
And how many hours a week do you work?
30 plus hours.
Okay. What's your average pay per week?
I'm not sure. I get paid every 2 weeks,
Okay. What's your average pay every 2 weeks?
about $350.
And that's what you take home?
Yes.
Okay. Now, isn't it true, ma'am, that Mr. Baltimore would set up visitations with you and you just wouldn't show up to get your son?
No.
Okay. Isn't it true, ma'am, that Mr. Baltimore would frequently text message you and ask you if you were coming and you simply wouldn't respond?
No.
So, and let me ask you, during the time, how long had you and Mr. Baltimore resided in the Mr. Baltimore's current residence together?
Moved in 2010.
2010. And you lived in that residence until when?
December of 2020.
Okay. And so for about 10 years, you didn't have a problem with that residence, did you?
The understanding was that we were going to get another house or that one was going to be fixed, and he never did anything to do that.
That wasn't my question. My question was, for about 10 years, you didn't have a problem with the residence, did you?
Yes, I did. I just never said nothing.
What did you do about it?
I tried to get him to fix stuff and he wouldn't do it.
What did you do for the residents other than trying to tell Mr. Baltimore what to do?
I tried to keep the house as clean as I could,
Okay, so you cleaned the house
as much as I could.
as much as you could. Did you pay for any repairs?
He would say that was on him.
Objection, non-responsive.
I'll sustain.
Ma'am, did you pay for any repairs?
No.
Okay. Did you pay for any improvements?
No.
Okay. And the reason you left was not the house, it was because of the argument that you and Mr. Baltimore got into, correct?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
I just want to clear up your employment. Opposing counsel has asked you about the amount of money you've earned. And I think you said it was like $350 every 2 weeks or something like that. And that's since December 2020. What was your earnings before December 2020? And what did you do with your earnings?
It was about $200 a week, and I put them in my car for gas to drive from Blooming Grove to Palmer every day to go to work.
What did you do with your other hours prior to December 2020 with respect to Damien, the child?
I would take him to school. I would sleep during the day and work at night.
And as far as your making any improvements to that house, do you have any training as a contractor, anything to do with building skills?
No, sir.
When you got the house, did you believe or understand that you were going to be required to fix it?
Objection, leading.
No, sir.
All of
as far as your house is concerned, your aunt's house or the house over there that your parents have now that's been remodeled, are there any wild animals in that house?
No, sir.
Are wild animals capable of entering into that house?
No, sir.
Where does Damien sleep when he's there in a 3-bedroom house with 6 people in it?
With my oldest son in the bunk beds.
And does the oldest son have his own room?
Yes,
And where does the daughter sleep?
in the room with me.
Okay, and then your parents, I guess, have the other bedroom?
Yes, sir.
All right. And as far as the argument was concerned and leaving the house because of an argument, when did it become apparent to you that your marriage would have to be end in divorce?
When he told me if I walked out the door, it was over.
Okay. And since that time, you have seen the child how often?
For 4 months, I would go over every night and see him when he was with my parents. After that, I've seen him maybe a handful of times.
As far as any disagreement with your husband concerning the visitation, was there ever any disagreement with respect to the weekdays, Monday through Friday?
No, because he wouldn't let me see him on the weekdays.
So you couldn't visit your child on the weekends?
It was only when it was convenient for him.
Okay. I pass the witness.
No questions of this witness.
Kind of gone over 15 minutes on petitioner's side. Mr. Eisen, do you have any other witnesses to call very briefly?
Ms. Rhodes, I just wanted to clarify the child's residents are staying over at the house. I don't think she can add a whole lot, but she can add that.
I don't see her in the waiting room. I put her in the waiting room and then she disappeared. You know what, if she gets back on, or if you want to contact her, you're welcome to call her out of turn. But Mr. McGee, I think what I'll do is turn over to you if you have any witnesses to call.
Thank you. I would call Mr. Baltimore.
All right. Mr. Bodmer? Bodmer?
Mr. Baltimore.
Yes, sir.
Camera.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Baltimore, we're going to go rather quickly. How did your son come into your possession?
I had gotten off of work, and like normal, I'd pick up Damien and hello.
Okay. Continue.
Sorry, I think it's freezing up. Oh, okay. Pick him up after the argument. Sean left. Trying to remember. He went to her house. Damien went to her house, her mother's house, which was actually at her aunt's because their house was under construction. I would drop him off every day to take him to school, or pick him up in the morning after I got out of work to take him to make sure he got to school, because they had taken him on vacation.
Okay. And did Mrs. Baltimore try and stop you or refuse to allow you to take your son back to his home?
No.
Okay. And how long has your son been living in that home?
5 years.
Okay. And how old is your son?
6. He just.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Just turned 6.
Okay. And you heard Mrs. Baltimore's testimony, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm hearing,
Let's start with the visitation. Did you offer Miss Bodimer periods of possession for your son?
yes.
Okay.
Time she-
And did she
All her-
take up on those periods of possession? I'm sorry?
You asked, what, please? I'm hearing voice.
You're
I
cutting
can't,
pretty bad, Mr. Bodimer.
Is that my connection?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, are you in a car?
Who, me?
Yes.
No.
I need you to get to a place where you have a good signal.
Okay. Ooh. Give me a second. I'm gonna have to go outside if I'm gonna get a good signal. Okay.
You were on a computer screen today earlier. Are you still around that?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Are
Yes,
you
sir.
no longer on your computer?
I'm on my phone.
Is your computer not working well?
No, it's runs through satellite, and we had bad weather this morning, and we're still kind of hazy out. So we got satellite connection that's not working correctly.
Okay.
It drops too much.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Bodimer, my question was, did Mrs. Bodimer take you up, exercise those periods of possession that were offered to her?
Not really. Once in a while.
Say that one more time.
No, not regularly. I've always had an
Okay.
open policy.
Okay. Were there ever times Mrs. Bodimer would contact you that she was going to exercise visitation and then just not show up?
She would show up late. I know she'd show up 2 hours late. Actually, not. I don't think there was enough times that she never showed up.
Okay. What about your residence? Is your residence infested?
In what?
Is your residence infested with possums?
No.
Okay.
No, I got a back door that's broken that needs to be fixed, and I have a replacement door for it. I couldn't find the third hinge for the door.
Okay. Did Mrs. Bodimer ever complain about the residence while she was living there for 10 years?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
she would complain, but seldomly.
Okay. And Mr. Bodimer, how do you get your son to school and from school?
School bus.
Okay. And are you off from work in time to pick him up and drop him off for school?
The morning, I have his Aunt Dana come over to the house. His Aunt Dana, me and her have an agreement. She comes over in the morning, gets him ready for school, puts him on the bus. In the afternoon, I'm home early enough so that I can meet him after the bus.
Okay. So, and that's what you did after, for this school year?
That's what I did after I was forced to take the job that I currently have.
Okay. And in regards to, has Mrs. Bodimer provided you any financial support for your son?
No.
Okay. And in regards to your Mrs. Bottomer's parents, can you categorize the relationship they have with your son?
That who has with them?
That Mrs. Bottomer's parents.
The relationship that Miss Bodmer's parents have with Damien?
Yes.
So far, it's an okay relationship as far as I know. He keeps asking to go see his sister, but he wants to call mom because mom treats him okay, treats him good.
Now, in regards to electronic communication, phone calls, and the like, do you allow, have you ever not allowed Mrs. Bottomer electronic communication?
No.
How often did Mrs. Bottomer attempt to contact your son?
When I was working at Fujikoki, she would never call because he was over at her mother's house. After I left Fujikoki, still, she doesn't call. In fact, for the past couple of months, past month, nobody's bothered calling me to see him.
And that was going to be
always me calling them. Sorry.
That's okay. So my next question is, how often would she ask to exercise any periods of possession now that you have this new job?
None. I called for his birthday in April 1st. I actually had to call them to see him for his birthday.
Okay. And did they come and see him?
Chantal did. Chantal came, picked him up, and took him for 4 hours, but said she couldn't keep him overnight. Because I told her she could take him overnight.
Okay. So you gave her the option for an overnight and she didn't take the overnight?
Yep.
And was that typical? Is that typical for Miss Bottomer when she would exercise her periods of possession?
Typically she does and her mother does.
Okay. And are you asking the court to appoint you as the joint managing conservator with the exclusive right to designate the primary residence of the child?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been your son's primary, as between you and Ms. Bottomer, have you been your son's primary caregiver?
Yes.
Let's say over the past 5-6 months, who regularly feeds your son?
I do. And as for Chantal's mother giving him breakfast in the morning, when I was working at Fujikoki, when I got out of work, we would have 2.5 hours, and I would take Damien to Waffle House. I would take him to IHOP. I would take him to Denny's. We'd go out for breakfast in the morning, or if he wanted, which sometimes he did, we would come home and I would make him waffles or pancakes or whatever he wanted for breakfast in the morning. Okay. And then I would take him to school.
Okay. And who did your son's laundry?
I did.
Who provided financially for your son?
I did.
Okay. And how is your son covered under health insurance?
She has Medicaid.
Okay.
The company I currently work for does not offer health insurance.
Okay. And how many bedrooms are in your residence?
3 bedrooms, plus a room that we can use as a bedroom.
Okay. And so your son has, in effect, his own room?
Yes.
He doesn't have to share a room with anyone.
I'm sorry, what?
He doesn't have to share a room with anyone?
No.
Okay. And are you able to financially take care of yourself and your son?
Currently, yes.
Okay. Do you have any concerns over Mrs. Bottomer if the court granted her a standard possession order?
Yes, I do.
And what concerns do you have?
I have a concern that her so-called friend, Rob Edgel, will be around my son, who has 3 convictions for controlled substance. I'm worried about Carl Edward Rose, who is, I believe, has 1 possession.
Objection to the response, believe, opinion of the witness. Move to strike.
Motion to strike, granted.
Also move to strike on the basis that the improper foundation on proving up any convictions of anybody.
Your Honor, I'm merely asking what his concerns are. He can testify what he believes and what his concerns are.
I don't think, again, this is a conclusion of the witness, and I don't think it opens the door to that type of testimony, even in this case, which is a custody case.
Your Honor, it's his belief. There doesn't need to be a predicate.
I respond.
Okay, continue, Mr. Baltimore.
And my concern is my son has started lying since he spends about a week at a time over at his grandmother's house. He comes home and now he started lying. That's a big concern to me. He's never done that before.
Do you have any concerns that Mrs. Baltimore is using illegal drugs?
Objection leading.
I'll overrule. You may respond.
Honestly, I don't know. It could go either way. I'm on the fence on that one.
Okay. And so, are you asking that her periods of possession be supervised by her mother?
By her mother?
Yes.
No.
What are you asking for in relation to Mrs. Baltimore's periods of possession?
I would ask that there be a third party,
Okay.
non-related.
Are you asking that anyone who's been convicted of a controlled substance, that y'all be prohibited from taking the child around a person who's been convicted of a controlled substance?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Are you asking for the court to enjoin you and Ms. Baltimore from taking the child around a person who's been convicted of a controlled substance?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass it on.
Mr. Bottomer, first off, we didn't hear anything about what your
Your
pace.
Honor, I don't mean to interrupt, but is the court giving us more time?
I'll give you a little extra time because we've had a lot of issues with the technology that it seems to not be going well. So let's wrap it up.
Okay, what's your pay scale, sir?
Right now I'm at $17 an hour.
Okay, and what's your take home per week?
My last check was $568.
Okay, now you commented about doing the child's laundry.
Yep.
When does the child change clothes and bathe?
He changes every day.
So
not-
how does he get his
No, I
clean
have to do it
clothes?
twice or 3 times a day.
Excuse me, 3 times a day, what?
I may have to change his clothes between 1 and 3 times a day, depending on how dirty and how much fun he's having.
Okay, and as far as the clothes are concerned, how does he get a change of clothes over at his grandmother's and his grandfather's?
He goes over with clothes that I send with him, and when he's there, I don't know.
Do those clothes come back clean or dirty?
The clothes that he leaves with?
No. You said you sent him over with extra clothes, right?
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, so he just goes over there with the clothes he's got on.
Yes.
Okay, so you're not giving any clothes over there for them to wash or clean or anything like that.
No, not if he's going over there to visit.
He goes over there with a change of clothes or not?
No.
Now, as far as the issue here with who's seen the child and who's been with the child, it's a fact, is it not, that from December 2020 to about the end of February or sometime in March, that child spent Monday through Thursday from about 5 p.m. in the afternoon to the next morning at 4 or 5 a.m. when you work nights. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was over at the grandma and grandpa's house, correct?
Yes, it was.
And the way you came with the child, you live near Corsicana, or you live in Navarre, and you would drive up to Dallas and you would swing by there when you needed to pick up the child, correct? Either on your way from work or on your way back from work.
That was my routine, and that was his routine, yes.
Okay. So if I added up correctly, the child also spent time in kindergarten from January to May before he graduated on May 28th, correct?
Yes.
And so his kindergarten begins at about 8 o'clock and ends at about 3:30, correct?
Yes.
So 7 hours a day he's in kindergarten.
Yep.
6 hours a day he's with you. And the rest of the time he was with grandma and grandpa or with Chantel over there at that house with his siblings, correct?
No.
How's that incorrect?
Chantal did not live with them.
So it's your testimony Chantel did not live with them?
No, she did not live at her aunt's house.
And as far as her mother and father's house is concerned, what about that residence? Your testimony is she doesn't live there?
I believe she does not.
Where does she live?
Every time I've seen her vehicle is at Rob Edgel's house or Carl Edward Rose and wherever they're staying.
How do you go by this guy's house to see Chantel's car? Is that on your way to work?
It was somewhat on my way home. It was just a slight detour out of my way.
So you detoured to go by that house to check up.
If I had an awful feeling, yes, I did. I need to do an investigation. Yes.
I can't get both of you.
What kind of awful feeling did you say you got when you deviated from going to work to check on your wife?
Just an awful feeling in the pit of my stomach, saying something's wrong.
You can't describe it any better than that.
No, I can't really describe it much worse than that.
Okay. And as far as you were concerned, you're capable of contributing to your child support, correct?
Right now, financially, no.
Why not?
Other than what I'm already providing.
$17 per hour.
I make $70 an hour, and my bills are $2,200 a month.
So how are you staying afloat? Is it your parents up in New Hampshire that are helping you?
No.
How do you stay afloat then if you're underwater with $2,200 and you're making
I break even.
Let me finish my question.
Okay.
Board's permission. How can you meet your bills if you've got $2,200 bills per month and you're only making $17 per hour? How you been making it?
My bills are $2,200 approximately, and my gross income for the month is approximately $2,300, $2,400, about $2,400 for my gross income. Plus, if I need to sell whatever, I have some reserve items that I sell if I need to.
So a child, if you're awarded custody, the child would have $100 per month plus what you could sell, unless you can get contribution from Chantal, who I think you've heard the testimony gets, what is it, $350 every 2 weeks?
$350. The math didn't add up, but yes, that's what she said.
Okay. And the grandparents obviously have spent a lot in helping Damien and supporting him. Is that correct or incorrect?
Not as far as I know.
They didn't pay for food when he was over there. They didn't pay for the utilities your attorney asked about when he asked.
I gave them a check. I gave them a check to cover some expenses.
$150.
I believe so.
$150 for December, January, February, March. December, January, February, March, April, May.
Or
I
not,
divide that by
not December.
6. I get, let's see, what do I get? I get about $30 a month.
Let me correct you, but that December is not correct.
You got $150 you gave them. We're dealing with
One meal a day?
6. We're dealing with 6 months.
No.
Well, you're dealing with the child staying overnight too and having shelter, correct?
Yes.
And one thing more important, you're dealing with a situation where you can hold a job because you had support during that period of time because grandma and grandpa helped take care of the child. You could leave the child and work full time, correct?
At that time, yes.
And you were fired from your first job that you had, that job in December, correct?
Yes.
And did you take a job for less pay or did you get more pay when you were rehired?
Less pay.
What was your previous pay scale?
$25 an hour.
Okay. And as far as visitation is concerned on weekends, you had the child all the weekends from December, January, February, March, April, May, correct?
Yes.
Sometimes I think you indicated that Chantal picked up the child when you did so by agreement on weekends. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I had a vehicle go
Over that
behind me.
period of time from December to May, it's June now, Chantal picked up that child and visited on the weekend, sometimes by agreement.
No.
So there never was any weekend visitation from December to May.
She had open invitation.
Sorry, I didn't catch your answer to the question. Was there or was there not any visitation from December to May with the child exercised by your wife, Chantal?
Sorry, I'm trying to think if she actually did. I think she did.
We're short of time. I'll go on. As far as the Medicaid is concerned, that's something that Chantal lined up for the child, and you can't get a better deal from your employer, correct?
Yes, that's true.
And maybe the better deal's not available through Chantal's current employer. Do you know who her current employer is?
She stated Shell earlier.
Okay. Do you know what you don't know about any current employer she's got that's other than Shell?
Well, actually, I'm sorry, Sonic. That was it. She's currently working at Sonic. At least that's what she says.
Okay, and you don't know what benefits she's got over there?
Nope.
All right. And as far as the backup for you, when you have to leave the child, you say the child can go to school by bus and the child gets off at 8. And that's how it did with the kindergartner. It gets there at 8 and he gets off at 4. What kind of plan do you have for the child to take care of the child if grandma and grandpa are not available and the aunt is not available?
Well, currently I have 1, 2, 3, 4 options available for somebody to watch him. The plan for Damien is to continue in the school with his favorite teachers. He likes his school. So I'd like to see him stay in his school.
Let me ask you this question. This Aunt Dana, is that Chantal's sister or is that your sister?
It's actually his great aunt.
It's his great aunt, but is that your aunt or is it what
no,
blood relationship does she have with Damien?
It's Damien's great aunt. It's Debbie's sister.
Debbie's sister, that Debbie Rhodes, meaning the grandma's sister.
Yes.
And so she has continued to assist you and she's continued to be a backup for you, even though there's been family division over your divorce.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, Dana helps you. She does, in essence, what grandma and grandpa did. She backs you up when you need to be at work. She picks up the kid and she makes sure the child gets back home.
She watches him in the morning. That's it.
Okay. And you've arranged your job schedule such that you're home at night now?
Yes.
And what are the hours of Dana during the day that she stays with the child?
She comes over in the morning about 5:15 every morning. Gets Damien on the bus 6:45. Helps get him ready while I go to work.
Why do you need her to help you get the child ready for work? I mean, ready to go to school when you're going to work from 5 to 7?
Because my job starts at 6 a.m. And he didn't get on the bus.
Get out of there quick.
He doesn't get on the bus until 7.
Okay, so somebody has to be there with him waiting for the bus.
Right.
Okay. I pass the witness.
Sir, Mr. Baltimore, so to be clear, you said you had 4 backups, is that correct, to help
Yeah.
you? Okay. And that's only to get your son to school, is that correct?
No, that's anytime.
Okay. And but do you get off work in time to take care of your son?
Yes.
Okay. So your new job has your new job helped facilitate you being your son's kind of sole caregiver at this point?
Yes, it has.
Okay. So is there any need for Mrs. Bottomer's parents anymore?
No, it would actually be a hindrance because they're so far away.
Okay. And with your new job, if something were to happen to your son, are you able, if he's sick or something like that, are you able to take off work? And I'm sorry?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
They are a family-oriented company, and that's one thing I love about them.
Okay. And so do you believe that it's in the best interest of the child to maintain the status quo?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll pass this.
I have nothing further of this witness.
I think we've gone, Mr. McGee, did you have any other witnesses that you were going to call?
No, Your Honor.
I think what I'd like to do is go ahead and take closing arguments. Oh, you may proceed.
Right, I'm up first. I'm petitioner. What we have here, Your Honor, is a classic case of a husband who is financially strained, taking care of a child who doesn't make enough to support the child. We have a wife who works and she does not make enough on her own to support the child to the extent that they can meet the difference between what they can offer the child and what the child had at the grandma and grandpa's. Now, grandma and grandpa were okay to hold the child and to take care of the child and to act as Mr. Bodmer's backup until such time as temporary orders in this case came close in March 30th. And then there's a change. Well, the change comes too late. What really the child had in December at the time he separated was he developed a situation where he lived with his grandma and grandpa, his other 2 siblings, and according to my client, sworn testimony, with his mother. And they each had a place in the house, although they did double up. And they had a really nice house and a good house. And there wasn't any problem with that until it started to become a situation where that might injure the custody case, which the respondent wanted to try to take. Now, what we have here, instead of character assassination issues, really, we shouldn't be considering them now. We should be considering what's in the best interest of the child. It's in the best interest of the child to see both his father and mother, as the court is aware. It's the best interest of the child to be supported in the best way that possible, not in a rich way necessarily, but with something more than possum running loose in the house and a broken back door that doesn't get fixed, and according to Mr. Bodmer, in years, and a problem that he's got with his wife. And
I'm going to object as to misstatement of the facts. There was no testimony that it was for years. The testimony was that it was he was missing a hinge.
Sorry, I've got fair comment. It's unclear how long it's been, but it's clear that the house was being fixed at for 10 years and never got fixed, or rather that they made any effort to fix it. Mr. Bodmer did. So my argument has fair comment to support it and the evidence. Now, with that in mind, this gentleman here should be working. He should be making more than just $100 for all of his other debts. When you ask for custody, you have a burden of proof. Where did those debts come from? Where does all that money disappear from or disappear to? And so we're in a situation where it seems to me, and I think the evidence supports that conclusion, you can look at it this way, that the child is being used as a tool to try to avoid paying normal child support. That has fallen onto the grandma and grandpa to a certain extent. But look at the argument about who's paying the utilities over there. The not important part of who's paying them, the important part, number one, is the child getting it? Is he getting air conditioning? Is he getting a good place to sleep? Is he getting a safe place to sleep? That's your first question. And then from there, you come back to the issue of how can we equitably rearrange these payments? They have a good home for him over there. He's got siblings over there in Ellis County. As far as it being out of Mr. Bodmer's way, going from Corsicana to Dallas, I think that's right on the way.
And Oregon.
He can deviate from there, just like he can deviate. And then he checked on his wife and what car was parked at somebody's house, according to his testimony. So the best interest of the child here is to continue the situation that they had in December, January, February, and March, up to the time they were going to have the temporary order hearing, and to award temporary custody to Chantal, have them both work to the best of their abilities, and have the bigger wage earner contribute child support. And that's what we're asking the court to do. And as far as the supervision of the drug people, we have no objection to any of that being in the order of the court. But that's our argument, and that's what our evidence is. The child has the Medicaid. The parties ought to be ordered to cooperate with each other so that that health care insurance remains in effect. The court has heard the testimony of the parties about their earnings. With Mr. Bodmer, with his amount of money, the guidelines call for 20% of net earnings as that's defined. And as it stands here, his net earnings, he hasn't shown anything that would prevent his net earnings from just a comment about a $2,200 bill that he's underwater on. He hasn't shown anything that would stand for the proposition that he should pay less than 20% of his net earnings as is defined by the family code. So that's my argument, and I close on that.
Thank you. Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court counsel. I am certainly at a loss. I have no idea where counsel is going when he discusses burden of proof for the debts. I don't believe that I've ever heard that statement in a family law case well, ever. But the bottom line is this: Miss Bodmer can't even tell this court how much she pays her mother. She testified that she paid Mr. Baltimore a whopping zero. That prior to Mrs. Baltimore moving out, she was making an insignificant amount of money. Yet Mr. Baltimore was maintaining the household for 10 years. The son has lived in the home the entire time, his entire life. Mr. Baltimore testified that he utilized resources, which were Mrs. Baltimore's parents, until he got his new job. Now his new job allows him to pick up the child from school, allows him, and he has help like most single parents do in getting the child to school. Has absolutely nothing to do with getting out of paying child support, because as Mrs. Baltimore testified, she's giving nothing to anyone. So, I mean, that argument is laughable to be poignant with the court. It is merely a change in his circumstances. He has a house that he's residing in. This child will have his own room. Mrs. Baltimore is residing with her parents. There is no guarantee that her parents will continue to allow her to stay there and her two other children in any fashion. There is no guarantee whatsoever. And by her own testimony, she wouldn't be able to pay for utilities, water, gas, a mortgage, rent, or anything based on her income. The purpose of temporary orders, as the court knows, is to maintain the status quo. Mrs. Baltimore's testimony simply doesn't make sense. And maintaining the status quo is to have this child to stay with his father. Mrs. Baltimore testifies that she left and he would never let her see her son. Yet you turn around and in the next sentence, they attack Mr. Baltimore for taking the child over to her mother's house. Mrs. Baltimore had ample time with the child. If she chose not to see her child, that's on her. If she chose not to see her child or ask for visitation after Mr. Baltimore changed jobs and was able, is now able to ensure that his child gets back and forth to school, that's her choice. But certainly this child should remain where he has lived. That they indicated that there was a possum in the house. Lord forbid that if you live in the country, a possum comes in your house and then you lose custody of your child. That's nonsensical. They have demonstrated nothing. Mrs. Baltimore resided in that house for a decade. And that's where her children live. So if Mrs. Baltimore has a problem with it and feels that it's an unsafe environment, then she's potentially subjecting herself as well, because she allowed her other two children to stay in it. So she can't have
objection. He's arguing beyond the record about the other two children.
I can get both of you.
Is there an objection?
Yeah, the objection is you're arguing beyond the record. Your Honor's arguing beyond the record. I didn't hear any testimony about her other two children living in that rundown house with the possum in it.
This is argument. Y'all can finish up and make conclusions.
So the fact of the matter is, Your Honor, we believe that it is in the best interest of the child for the child to remain where he is in a stable environment where he's remained his entire life. Mrs. Baltimore's parents are not in this case. They're not interveners in this case. So they simply can't be ordered to do anything. But the court can order these parties, and the best bet is to leave the child where he is, where he's been residing with the stable parent. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Closing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, counsel makes light of a wild animal in the house. The animal can have rabies.
No.
It's
Possums
not
don't get
laughable at all. It's serious stuff.
Possums don't get rabies.
Excuse me, I have to move to strike. I
Yes.
heard a comment from the client
Let
instructing.
Mr. Eisen finish his closing.
I'm sorry.
Yes, possums can carry disease. They carry fleas. They carry other things. They're not pets normally for a reason. You don't keep possums as a pet. There's very few people that do, and there's nobody I know that lets them run around the house except for Mr. Bodmer's here. So apparently he may think that's his pet. But
Objection
other
to the
people would
statement of
think
the
it was
fact,
a wild
Your
animal.
Honor, there was no testimony that he used it as a pet or let it run around.
I said, apparently he thinks it's a pet. That's a fair comment on evidence. There's an inference of why is he in the house? Why is he letting the possum in the house? You have these inferences. And when one of them could be possible from the evidence
There was
cited by the
no
contract,
I can't get both of you.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. There was a misstatement of the fact. There's no evidence that Mr.
please let me
Baldwin
have my
allowed
argument
this
without
child
interruption.
in.
I can't get both of you.
Enough about possums. I understand a lot of people eat them, but I've never heard about someone having them as a pet. So let's move on.
All right. As far as the issue of remember, I'm gonna rest with this. This is the prior fact has to determine which side is telling the truth. Should rely on, this is what we argue, you should rely on the hard evidence first and the live testimony of interested witnesses last or later. So what do we have here? We know that we started in December. We know that he dropped the children off at grandma and grandpa's. He didn't have any fear that they would stop those privileges then. He made full use of those privileges so that he could do his job. So he let that go on for all that time, and that is really the status quo. They interrupted the status quo precipitously in March whenever they decided that they were going to go for temporary orders, and that wouldn't look good. But just remember this. They tried to make the court believe that this woman was not exercising her visitation or was not interested in seeing her child. But it comes out that more time is spent with the child over at the grandma and grandma's house. That child's over there more than he is with the father when you count the kindergarten time. So that's the status quo. The mother should be awarded the custody of the child because they've disturbed the status quo. And this child should go where he can have the best home and the best care, which is with grandma and grandpa, which both of these parents used as a backstop. And both of them, seemingly, him with his higher earnings and her with lower earnings, can't afford to support themselves fully, much less to support this child. I rest on that argument.
Okay, I'll consider a ruling. In the interim, I will order that Ms. Bodmer submit to a urine screen by 5 p.m. tomorrow, and consider further orders in this whole case as far as temporary orders.
You cut out, Judge.
I didn't hear.
Okay, I will order that Ms. Bodmer undergo a urine screen by 5 p.m. tomorrow and submit that to the court, and then the court will make rulings on all issues before the court as far as temporary orders.
Could I have one question? I had technical problems with my pictures. Can I submit them with an affidavit?
No, we would object, Your Honor.
Well, at this point, evidence is closed, so I'll sustain the objection. I believe that concludes this hearing. I will have a ruling forthcoming.
Thank you, Your Honor. Permission to be excused?
Could I find out where she could go to get the test? Suggestion?
I'm sorry?
Suggestions.
She's in Ellis County?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming, there's places in Ellis County that do urine screens. I know the ones here, but I'm not sure in Ellis County. She maybe, if she can find a place, that's great.
There's step one right next to the courthouse in Ellis County.
Okay, that's one. You know what street that's on?
I don't. It's just right next to the courthouse.
One of those streets that goes around the courthouse in a rectangle?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, see to that, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Y'all are here on Miss Hayes?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Hayes called me and I have her on the phone right now on speaker.
Give me 1 second.
Yes, sir. Yes, I think, let me put myself back on mute.
Well, I've heard enough about possums today to last me.
That was different. Thanks for that.
That's been your entertainment for this afternoon.
And again, why I don't do family law.
Amen, Sherry.
Okay, so Miss Hayes, are you there, ma'am?
You're gonna have to speak loud, Tiffany. Let's try again. Say that again.
I heard her.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go on the record and calls numbers D40860 and D40862, both Style State versus Tiffany Hayes. I have counsel for both sides present. Ms. Hayes, is that your full and complete name for the record?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is that your full name, ma'am?
Is Tiffany Hayes your full name?
Yes, Tiffany Hayes, Tiffany Marie Hayes.
Okay.
Tiffany Marie Hayes.
All right, Ms. Hayes, Ms. Fallhaber, on behalf of your client, do you wish to waive arraignment, enter pleas of not guilty?
I do, Your Honor. And additionally, while we were listening to the possum case, I did email arraignment waivers and have just submitted them via e-file. And I've also sent the scheduling order to Ms. Schumer for her signature, and I will e-file those as soon as I get them back as well.
Thank you. All right. No capias to issue.
Appreciate that.
That concludes these hearings.
All right, thank you. May we be excused, Your Honor?
Y'all be careful of possums out there.
Will do. And Ms. Schumer, thank you for logging back on.
No problem. You have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right.
Okay, so now let me log out and you and I